I'm Roy Potter, a former U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel. Welcome to the Potter Exposit. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is the 5th of June, 2018, if we can believe that. I guess we have to. I'm doing some technical things, as you all can tell, and my camera's looking a little funny this morning. It might be because it has a setting that I accidentally hit that I didn't realize I was doing. But we'll just go ahead and go with it this morning. I'm actually working with some green screen type of activity on my live streams. It's going to be a while before I get there, but I think some of the settings may have made the image here look a little odd, like it's not quite in focus or whatever. Anyway, I know it's real early. I saw a complaint, I think it was last time. It wasn't really a complaint, it was just a statement, an observation that someone said, "Wow, you sure start early, ugh." And now here we are, almost a full half hour before I normally start. I normally don't start until 7 or later, 7:30, sometimes 8. But I really do have some things I have to get done today. And it's going to be a warm day, and the air conditioning's having some problems. So, you add all that up together, you say, I think I'll get this out of the way right now. Anyway, again, hello everybody as you come in. I'm grateful for you to be here. Hopefully I have some information for you this morning that will be of interest and help you to understand some of the world situation and what's going on. Although I have a feeling like I'm preaching to the choir to most of you. Most of you are very well read up on what's happening and understand the difficulties that we're in. You noticed I labeled this video, "Hurry Up and Wait," for Jeff Sessions. Any of you in the military, particularly the Army, will remember that statement, hurry up and wait. Because, what happens is, of course, you're given an alert or you're told that you're going to do something or whatever, and invariably you sit around and you wait, and you wait, and you wait. It's Army and police life is a combination of absolute boredom and absolute terror. There's very rarely anything in between, you know what I mean? And so I thought that was quite apropos for this whole situation with the Department of Justice and its fearful leader, Jeff Sessions. And that's going to tick off a lot of people out there, but the fact of the matter is, I'm not going to listen to a bunch of hype about what he is doing behind the scenes. I'm going to listen to the people that really know what the hell is going on and also make my own judgments based upon what I see on the ground. Remember, rhetoric is one thing, action is another. So I can hear all the rhetoric about things I want, but unless I see the fruits of the labor, the actual activity on the ground, I don't go along with it. Okay, I don't need to, and so I'm not going to. Jeff Sessions is still backing the DOJ and not giving Congress the information it's asking for. Nunes is getting pretty upset about it. Obviously, I think most of you know what's happening there. And Trump is calling more and more out, is calling out the DOJ and Jeff Sessions more and more. And the entire deep state is, people are saying it's in an uproar, that it's scared and all that. No, I don't think it's scared at all. I think it's doing what I would call measured actions to oppose Trump. And that doesn't mean that they've thrown all options off the table. It means that they're measuring him. You know, when you're in a combat, you're constantly testing the forces of the other side. And I think that's still what's going on. And in my own opinion, as much as I am behind Trump, I do worry that he's basically outnumbered now. There have been a lot of battles in history, you know, where the good guys were outnumbered and they still win. And I think with our prayers and our efforts here, that can happen. But of course, as you know, I've mentioned in the past some areas where I believe that Trump has given in to the deep state, and particularly to the military-industrial complex. Yes, a lot of you have said, and possibly rightly so, that that's choosing the time and place for a battle. In other words, fighting the battles that you can and avoiding the ones that you're not ready for. And I understand that. My good Republican insider friend in California reminds me about that all the time. But I just want to tell you that as we go into all of this that we're starting with now, hopefully, you know, they keep putting off this IG report. It was going to be, May? It was going to be Memorial Day weekend. And, of course, that was just the Clinton part of it. And then they got over into, oh, well, we're going to do it on June 5th, which is today, and then they moved it to, or maybe it was yesterday, June 4th. And then they're going to move it to June 11th. So they keep kicking this thing down the road, and we'd like to think it's because more information is coming out. There's some things happening behind the scenes that more people will open up and tell what's happening and what's happened. I guess we have to be patient there, but this hurry up and wait with no arrests happening, with all of the evidence that I see, is just aggravating, and I think most of us are that way. Okay, I'm going to hold off on talking about the pre-step testimony, which may be going on right now. I'm not sure. That's another reason why I started early today. I don't want us to miss anything on that comes out. Not that they'll tell us everything, but I think that's going to be very important. You know, I've said for a long time, I did that whole series on FBI corruption, which would include actually the entire IC, the entire intelligence community, many of the three-letter agencies like the ATF, the Bureau of Land Management, the IRS, the Social Security Administration, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have a government that is out of control and thinks that it is the master instead of the servant, and we have got to change that, and Trump is our best bet at that. As I've often said, as he has to work in the world of political reality as he finds it, even though sometimes I don't like the way he does it, the fact of the matter is I understand the political reality. And unfortunately, we're in the same boat. We have to work with the political reality that we are in. When I wrote The Crimson Thread, that's one of the things I tried to point out, was that despite how good the man we know as Jesus was, he still had to work within the reality of his time. And that's an important thing to consider in history, which most people, especially traditional Christians, kind of forget. So at any rate, I'm going to recognize that. And like I say, there's some things happening I don't like, but there are a lot that are. Somebody put out a list of all the things that Trump has done since he's been in office, and it really is incredible. It really is incredible. I understand the importance of the economy and trying to get that jump-started so that we're not going to die on the vine. Although I've always been, as most of you know, I've always been very concerned about putting money ahead of character. And I don't mean Trump's character, I mean ours. I mean the idea of instituting goodness of rewarding goodness, of bringing up the level of consciousness out of the gutter where the American people, not so much the flyover country, although as I said, I travel an awful lot, and unfortunately I even see it there. But we have to rise above this cesspool that we've been in for so long, and it's going to be very difficult for us to do that. And as you know, I'm concerned that we probably won't win the race, but I pray every day that we will. Okay, so let me jump to something that a lot of people are concerned about right now that's been going on in Tucson, Arizona. Yeah, you didn't think I was going to cover that, did you? You're probably wondering where I was the last few days. I don't jump on some of these things immediately because I want to see where they're going. If you'll remember back in 2011, I did 2 documentaries which are on this channel. And the first one that I'm going to refer to is homeless camps, and it definitely concentrated on homeless vets who helped these camps to survive, these people in these camps. They showed them how to stay warm, they showed them how to stay cool, how to prevent from getting bitten by animals and insects. One of the really important things that they did, of course, was security. And anyway, so the vets really help people out in these situations, how to survive out there. They use the skills that they learned in the military to do that, and they freely imparted that information to others, which, it's sad that they're there in the first place, but it shows how they are, how, given the right opportunity, there are these things called emergent leaders. And if the military is good at anything, okay, it's good at teaching people that at the right time they can become an emergent leader. And I saw that out there. So I did that documentary, and I also did the one called Borders, Mexican Drug War or Insurgency. And it's funny because the two were related at the time, and I knew that. If you go back and watch those, and they're not the greatest productions, but especially with the wind problem that I had some really bad wind. But basically, those 2 documentaries are really tied together. And I did a very thorough examination of many of the crossover areas, especially around the I-19 area where this whole thing in Tucson is happening. And I could find pretty much the same kind of things back then that the VOP, these veterans on patrol, found in Tucson. And don't kid yourself, the Tucson government has known about this for a long time, and I'm going to show you why they know that here in just a minute. And not just the fact that there are, people crossing the border coming into the United States from Mexico. That's not the only thing. I am convinced that they have known about the trafficking thing for a long time. So like I said, I wanted to sit back and look at this, knowing what I did, having been down there, seeing some of these places where they would have the layovers. In other words, they cross the border and they'd have these different areas where they'd have water or a place they could sit out during the day. Most of these people travel at night, which is important in their minds because that way they don't get too hot, number one. Number two, they think that they're not as easily spotted. Of course, today with our technology, that's not quite true, but it still helps them. So most of the places that you see, like what VOP found, are layovers during the day. And I think that's an important thing to understand with this septic tank that they found with the kid stuff in the bottom. Now, there are other pieces of evidence there that Craig Sawyer pointed out, what appeared to be restraints, although I'm not sure that's what those are. Because I did see other things like that. Now, that could be, well, those other camps are doing these same things. Well, hold off there. Leave that for a minute. What I was most concerned about was the hair dye situation, okay? Probably more than anything else. Why the hair dye? Because that obviously is you're trying to hide the identity of someone. So this place could have been used, as Craig said, to bring people up north into the United States or to take people south to the border. People have been kidnapped or whatever. I think that's a possibility. But this underground, and CMEX is a real problem. I think I'm pronouncing that right. We know its ties to Clinton's. It was responsible really for that bridge falling down there at the airport in Miami, or was it Ontario? Anyway, that whole situation. They have ties to a lot of other places. The people that are on their boards, all their company boards and all those things. There are a lot of problems with that, and it's in the right area, and I'll show you that again in just a minute. So Cemex, however they say it, is a problem. It's one of those companies, very much like DynCorp or Carlyle Group or those kinds of things that have these ties to these nefarious areas, especially like the Clintons. But anyway, getting back to this what is obviously a type of septic tank of sorts. Just keep in mind that there are wild animals down there. There are snakes, there are scorpions, there are coyotes, badgers, some really vicious things. And when I was in California a few years back, we had, and you've probably heard about this, I've heard of several occasions, and one actually was on film, on the news, of a coyote grabbing a small child about 18 months old out of a backyard in California. Do you see where I'm going with this? So it's probably important, if you look at this, there was one way into this thing, and an adult or two could sit on the outside and protect the children inside. Now, granted, it'd be hot as all get out in there probably. Craig said that it looked like, no ventilation and those things. But what's worse in the minds of the people that could have been running that? Would it have been, that the kids are hot, or that they might be grabbed and taken by a coyote, etc.? So that's the reason why I had to step back and look at this. I'm not really sure of all the details. It could be used for both things. The real problem that I see here, and I haven't really seen the layout of the place, but the real problem I see is that this is on Cemex property, whatever it is. And that there were apparently some more of these types of things. Now, that only makes sense because the Clintons want illegal immigration. They want open borders. So this company could have been helping just to get regular people back and forth. Who knows? But regardless, it was absolutely important that the veterans that are on patrol, the name of their organization, at least tried to get attention to this. And bravo and kudos and congratulations and thankfulness to them for doing that. That's great. Because the city of Tucson does not. Okay, what I'm going to bring up here is something that came out in 2013. I hope I don't lose you as I'm looking for this information here. I'd like to put it on screen, but I can't. I'm not quite at that point yet, okay, for a lot of reasons. I did put the links to these pieces of information that I'm giving you in the description box below for two reasons. One is I'm not going to have, although with InfoWars you don't have a copyright problem, they'll let you do it anyway. But that's one thing I avoid. And the other thing is you have to go to their site and they get the clicks, which is really what I like to do. And the first one listed there is something that came out in 2013, and this was just a year and a half after I finished my documentaries, okay? And at the time I was doing these documentaries, I was not aware of this. I found out afterwards, of course, but it explained an awful lot. Get this, and you can go look at the link for yourself. A lot of you have probably forgotten about it, but this is key to what happens in Tucson, okay? And in that entire corridor coming up from Nogales on I-19. And it's also evident, even though it's not Tucson area, it's also evident over by Sassabee, which is where the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge is, which I talk about in my documentary. And that the National Guard was there supposedly guarding that, but I have a feeling that what it was really guarding was something else. Not that the people there knew that they were doing that, but there were some indications, and I talk about it in my documentary. What am I talking about it with the Tucson link? Back in 2013, the Tucson City Council handed over all of its authority to the commander of Montan Air Force Base in and you can go see it if you go to that link there. You can click on it, read down through, and there are a couple of links. Now the city has disabled or has moved the information on the city declaration ordinance, whatever it was, I forget the number, that enacted this. They've moved it, so you have to go down and click on the actual document itself. It's towards the end of the article. Why is this important? Because Craig Sawyer asked in his video yesterday, he had the flag behind him, he was saying, well, the TPD is down, like a third of its officers are gone, and they're having to use volunteers that basically report and check out domestic problems, which are actually kind of dangerous. But the point is that they've given up this police presence by and large. Now, I've been to Tucson, and frankly, I think there are way too many cops. Frankly, I think there are too many cops everywhere anyway, for a lot of reasons, but that's another issue. The answer to Craig Sawyer's question, I believe, is this declaration of submission to martial law through the commander of Montan Air Force Base. I think that's the key, because it was another way of the city council basically placing funds that it wanted to use elsewhere, to take them from the public service, the public safety area, and put them somewhere else. It's a very corrupt city in a lot of ways, and it's just a good way to mess with some funds. Number one. Number two, if you have decent people on your police department, and I can't say that I've had any real encounters with Tucson police. The ones that I have that have been pretty good. I didn't notice any real problems. But what does happen when you do something like this is that you can control what the police department investigates. Do you see where I'm going with this? Because even if you have a bad chief, a corrupt chief, or a corrupt command structure, there are still officers that can, if they're courageous enough, work outside the system, go to the DA directly, or those kinds of things. If CMEX, I'm not saying they are, but if they were involved in some type of trafficking situation, what were the arrangements? Why did the city look the other way? Well, I think this martial law thing lends credence to the fact that there is a problem there. Okay? I think there's an absolute problem there. Let me get rid of this pop-up that came up here. I hate that. I send you these messages. So, I wanted to remind you that does play into this. I guarantee it plays into it. Remember, we have pretty good evidence, for instance, that the Las Vegas shooting uncovered some human trafficking information from the airfield there to possibly Area 51. I don't know if you remember that information that we passed out. Shepard Ambulis and Jake Morphonios in particular talked about that. And there were transportations outside of the commercial system so that the people that were being trafficked would not be discovered, and the people doing the trafficking wouldn't get busted. And just like the CIA and the military working together in the Golden Triangle through Panama back during the Vietnam War, and that's the big reason why Bush took out Noriega, because Noriega wanted more of the cut, or just to go out on his own. The military, at least some aspects of it, or military type aircraft, because the CIA does have its own air force, is involved somehow in that trafficking. So to have, and I'm not meaning to put any dispersions on the commander of Montan Air Force Base. The point is, he might not, or she, whichever it is, might not even realize the real purpose of the city doing this. And it is nefarious, absolutely 100%. So let me bring that up. Go check it out for yourself. Pass that on to Craig Sawyer, because I do think it's connected, okay? Obviously. I won't go into it any further than that, but I think that's important. Okay. The next link that I have there is Zero Hedge in the link down below, and it talks about the Department of Homeland Security. It's updating. Zero Hedge is again bringing up this thing where DHS is compiling a list of bloggers, journalists, and social media. Now, we first heard about this a few months ago, and I saw it on Zero Hedge again this morning, and I'm going, oh man. And they call us tinfoil hat, because of course they're looking at it as they're saying it's to gather, figure out what's going on around the country. Well, they don't need to compile a list of bloggers to do that. No, they don't need to do that at all. They can search the internet like anybody else. No, this is an identification program. That's exactly what this is. Zero Hedge, I think it was Michael Snyder that actually wrote the article. He's 100% correct. No, they're compiling information on individuals and groups that are watchdogs of the government. I wonder how many of those are going to be people that go along with everything that the government does, and I'm talking about the deep state. Well, the point is that Nielsen is still pushing this, just like she did giving the illegals, the sanctuary cities, money, which was against President Trump's wishes. Why does he keep these people? This is one of the things I do not understand. Why do you keep somebody that totally disregards your orders and your agenda? I do not understand that, President Trump. I do not. You made a living. Well, not living. You went on television on that reality TV show, Apprentice, and it was real easy for you to say fire somebody, and now we hear that you don't like to say that. And we've got all of these people that you've brought in that are absolutely attacking the American people and the innocent people around the world, and you won't fire them. I don't understand this. I just do not understand it. You have Jeff Sessions, you have Rosenstein, you have Wray, you have all the IRS stuff that's gone on, you have this situation with the DHS. Outright disobeying your orders. You fired Sally Yates for it. Why won't you fire Nielsen? Why won't you fire Sessions? Oh, we're doing a 3D chess thing here, but to keep the deep state not knowing what's happening. No, I'm afraid that's not what's happening here. By the way, I want to tell everybody I'm thankful that Melania's back. Apparently, she had quite a serious situation with her kidneys. Was there at Walter Reed, I guess. She's looking pretty good as far as I can tell. So I think even the people that don't like her because they're crazy, got to look at her and have some admiration somewhere in their soul for her. And most of us have a great deal because of all she's accomplished and the elegant first lady that she is, elegant and intelligent. So anyway, I'm glad to see that she's coming along, at least apparently. That's really terrible that, and then these people that sit around and don't have anything better to do but to accuse others, they come up with this thing, Trump was abusing her. When people, and I've said this before, when people make accusations, have no evidence, when they attack people like that, be it the president, be it, conservative talk show hosts or bloggers or whatever, when they attack people just for whatever, just twisting information, you can tell the people that do this, you can tell what they're up to. When you see that, you just need to not just disregard it, but just don't follow those people anymore. Click them away, because all they are really they're the shaitan personalities, the satanic personalities. Because what is Satan? The false accuser of the brethren. Sits before the throne of God day and night accusing the brethren. That's all these people do. They never do anything else. That's what they do, and they need to be rejected. And you can listen to them if you want, but all you're doing is poisoning your mind. Okay, so that's an important thing to consider about what's going on right here. It's very, very concerning. Okay, now I'm going to get into, if you've been watching, Mueller has really expanded his investigation, and a lot of people out there will say, well, see, he's really gathering information about the Democrats and about, the deep state and about the intelligence community, about what they're really doing. No, I don't believe that. For a lot of reasons. First of all, Mueller, who he is. Remember, he covered up 9/11. And a lot of people say, well, that's the tool that Trump's using against him to make him do all these things for him. I don't buy that. But regardless, I wanted to point out that now the first person to bring this up was actually Jake Morphonios. And I knew about it, and I kind of let it go past me. But then this morning, or actually last night, I was thinking, I got to look into this a little bit more. And, of course, the accusation is that Trump was using the Russians. Well, they haven't been able to prove anything there. They're still trying to pull stuff in. But now it's moved to other countries. And obviously, other countries have influenced our elections for a long time. This is nothing new. And there's nothing they're going to be able to do to stop it, unless they just stop the entire voting process in the United States anyway. But I want you to go to the Daily Beast connection, the link down below when you get a chance. And it talks about, it's called Wikistrat Israel. Now, a lot of you have probably heard of Stratcom, right? Well, this is Israel's answer to that, I suppose, and they call it Wikistrat. I'd like you to go look at that, read about it a little bit, because what I want to point out here is hypocrisy, as usual. That's the thing that really bugs me. Mueller is now going, because apparently it's true that Jared Kushner and some of these other people in the Trump campaign did work with other foreign, not governments, but organizations to help in the election. Now, first of all, as far as I know, that's not illegal, right? To hire, especially if they have licenses and corporations registered in the United States. But Mueller wants to, and his team want to make a big deal about anything they can. For instance, the 13 Russian companies that didn't even exist, that they indicted, or didn't exist at the time in the format that they said they did. They indicted, just ridiculous stuff. But what I want to point out here is this, and it's going to go back to another issue. Tie it in. Mueller wants to make a big deal about this, and we all know that Clinton was using the Saudis and Russia as well, and the UK, etc., MI6 even. We all know that. It's all out there. The evidence is there. Somebody just needs to go arrest these people for the other stuff, not so much for the campaign information, although, incorrect use of funds and that type of thing outside the election laws. But my point in this here is this, okay? Mueller wants to make a big deal about Trump and his campaign getting help from these corporations, and yet says nothing about the dual citizenship of congressional and Senate members, of people in bureaucracies in the government, etc., who really do have split loyalties and could hurt the United States. From Israel, from UAE, from Canada even, from Britain. It doesn't matter. If you have dual citizenship, that is a problem. Now, is that inside Mueller's authorization? Well, what he's doing now isn't part of his authorization. The whole thing is outlaw. The whole thing that Mueller is doing, as Dobbs, as DeGeneva, as Jarrett, as Janine Pirro and others have explained, it's all outside the Constitution. It's all outside of law. This is all baloney. And all it's doing is causing a lot of trouble to keep Trump from completing his agenda. And in reality, remember, of course, Trump is the symbol of the American awakening. He is the symbol of the American Second Revolution, of the restoration of the Constitutional Republic. And that's really what these enemies of the United States are about. And, people like Mueller and Comey and Clinton and Lynch and Holder, et cetera, and we can go down and list them all. So at any rate, I wanted to point out that problem that I see with Mueller acting on this. And again, it's another way to just keep this whole thing going. No, I don't believe that he's finding information that he's going to turn over to Trump and have Trump go after these people with Jeff Sessions. No, I don't believe that's what it is at all. Mueller is he's a very intelligent but a very evil and wicked man. Remember, he consented to the deaths of 3,000 people on 9/11 and helped cover it up. Okay? Just think about that. All right, and the last thing that I'll cover here this morning, when we will go to chat for a few minutes. I went to Al Jazeera because I was kind of concerned about what Saudi Arabia is doing. We're hearing some of this information about, and we know that Trump did some things with the Saudis. Remember, I consider the Saudis and the Israelis to really be the same thing, just two sides of the same coin. There's a lot of evidence that suggests that, not just politics, but but genetics, familial relationships, all kinds of things, all the stuff that happened with the Balfour Declaration, the Lawrence of Arabia thing, all of that is tied in, and it looks like a Mutt and Jeff routine. But regardless of all that, we do know that Saudi Arabia has a problem with Qatar. I've heard it called Qatar, whatever. Qatar. The Qatari government, Qatar, whichever it is. And that the Saudis have accused them of doing the terrorism. Point the finger at somebody else so that you avoid your own. Now, I do realize that there were organizations inside the Saudi government and the Saudi society, especially the upper echelons, that were very Wahhabist Sunnis and were likely behind bin Laden and a lot of the terror around the world. It's really not Iran. It really isn't Iran. But Saudi Arabia is pointing fingers at Qatar. And Qatar put in to buy some weapons from Russia, I believe is where they're from, some missiles. And Saudi Arabia is saying, no, they can't do that, and they're threatening military action. Watch this one, okay? It could be a smokescreen, or it could be another indication that possibly Trump's actions really are working on the international stage, especially in the Middle East. No, I don't want us to get involved in a war there. No way. Trump needs to avoid that like the Black Plague. As a matter of fact, not just avoid it, vehemently oppose it and deny that it happens. That situation over there has to be resolved with those people. All we need to do is make sure we're protecting ourselves. That's all we need to do. But you need to watch this, because this could be a real indication that there is a turnabout in the Saudi government. Now, do I trust Prince Salman? Well, I know that there are some other things that the Saudis are doing that I don't like, obviously. And I could go there, but I won't. All I'm saying is that this is an indication. Trump is working very hard. It's always bad to put faith in an individual, faith in personality. So I don't do that. I look at the fruits, and Trump has a lot of fruits. He has some things, of course, that I've talked about in the past that I'm concerned about. But by and large, he is devastating, from what I can tell, the opposition to him and to the Constitutional Republic. Now, as I said in one of my videos here a while back, yes, he is a billionaire. Yes, this is a struggle for power amongst the elites, and he is an elite, there's no doubt, but they're good elites and bad. And that war really, we're just kind of pawns in the game, seriously. But I do believe that deep down Trump does have a love for regular people. I think he does. My Republican insider in California has extensively studied Trump. And he says Trump is somebody you don't want to cross, but at the same time, he's very good to people. Now, I've heard some other things that don't quite match up to that. I have a friend, most of you might know who this is, it's Brant Thornton. And he's been very much involved, as I was, in the Bundy thing, but he's been down there going along with all the trials and all that, and of course with Malheur and other things, the Las Vegas shooting and other stuff, because he lives in Vegas. But he pointed out that when Trump built, and he was in the construction industry, Brand was an heating and air conditioning contractor. I hope he doesn't mind me talking about him like this. But at any rate, of course, he has a lot of ties with people in the construction industry down there. And at the time that Trump was building Trump Tower and some other things, Trump Resort, whatever that is down there, apparently Trump got out of paying a lot of workers, a lot of contractors for their work on really minuscule items, okay, little things that he could use to say that the contract wasn't fulfilled. So that's contrary to some of our other ideas about Trump. Now, this was quite a few years ago. We're talking, what is it, 15 years ago, 20? I think Trump is a changed man. I do. I do believe that. I think he's a changed man since he was on the tarot cards in 2005 as the king of the world. I think that they expected him to go along with them, the evil side of the elites, what we call the cabal. And I think that all the indications are, by the way they're attacking him now and throwing these obstacles in his path, that he has embraced a good spirit. I do see that. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to call him out when I think he's off the rails, okay? That would be irresponsible on our part as Americans and as people who cast our votes for these elected officials. Okay, well, let's get to chat a little bit. We've already been going for 40 minutes. Let's see what we have here. If there's anything I need to bring up. He better change it or we'll end up down there. 100 tune. Yeah, I think so. God loves all of his children, but some he loves more than others. I mean, that's just the nature of the thing. And a lot of it has to do with our actions. Actually, it's all to do with our actions, where we are. And while I have a different concept of the judgment than a lot of Christians do, because again, I'm not a traditional Christian, I'm what I call myself a Jamesian Christian. And no, as some of you again saw in the introduction there, where you see me in a tallit and a yarmulke, or some of you call it a kippah, or you may have seen the tefillin in some of those pictures. If you know what all that is, no, that's not Jewish. That's Israelite. That's the religion that Jesus actually restored. That's why I call myself a Jamesian Christian. But at any rate, most traditional Christians want to judge people based upon their understanding of their faith, and I don't do that. So, at any rate, I'm hoping that Trump at least has the right things in his heart. Okay, yeah, what was the alternative to Trump? A baby-eating witch? No, and I agree. Out of everybody, no matter what you think of the American electorate and of our system, no matter how you slice that pie, Trump was the only one, with the exception, I would say, of Rand Paul. Yeah, I know Rand Paul doesn't have the chutzpah, for lack of a better term. He's pretty adamant, but I don't think he has the chutzpah or the... Wow, I don't mean to insult Senator Paul here. But he doesn't have the masculine presence that Trump has. And I don't think that is a characteristic that we can do without right now. So despite the constitutional issues that Trump doesn't seem to understand, I don't think that we would have gone down as far as we have the road that Trump has accomplished so far. I don't think we would have done that with Rand Paul. I don't think that could have happened. Yeah, Rose of Sharon Homestead. You mean, Roy, you don't blindly put your faith in Trump and worship him like so many Christians? The goats and sheep are being... Yeah, no, absolutely not. I'm a guy of principle versus personality. Okay, it's principle, not personality. And that's why I say, early on when I was saying, folks, I'm not seeing Trump's rhetoric happening on the ground, and that worries me. Now, again, I realize that battles are fluid and you have to do certain things at first, but these were critical. Statements about not prosecuting Clinton, about the situation firing missiles into Syria when he knew that the IC was lying about that. There's no way he couldn't have known. I mean, if people like us know, I don't understand how he couldn't. And people say, well, they weren't informing him. Come on. He's known about this stuff for a long time, 9/11, for instance. But at any rate, yeah, it's principle, not personality. I've said that a lot. Did Corsi introduce the term seventh floor to the QAnon group? I don't know. I don't even talk about Q anymore. Like I said, we're going to do one more program on that sometime in the near future with a special guest who a lot of you won't like, but we're going to tear that thing apart. But I'm not worried about people that follow Q. I really don't care if you do. It's like I follow the New York Times, right? Isn't that crazy, right? I don't really follow it, but of course I get information from there. I don't care about that. It's the cultic behavior I'm concerned with. I don't really care where you get your information. There's a lot of good conversation going on there. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm not a part of it, and I refuse to be. Okay, and this is why I said that. Sam McPeak, Roy, love your work. The problem is I see with the truth movement is that it is all talk, no action, no action plan. Yeah, I agree, and that's why I'm worried about places that say, sit back and watch the show, get the popcorn. You know, I'm not going to say all the cliches, but they're designed to make you wait, to make you sit on the sidelines and wait. Now, sometimes you have to do that. But if I really believed that that was the answer to all this, do you think I'd be sitting here? You know, I take a lot of flack in this position, you know, a lot of flack. And you know, sort of like Trump, you know, you got to expect that, especially from the satanic side, that all they know how to do is accuse people and not do anything. But I think you can see from my intro, and again, thank you, Pam Jones, for putting that out for me. And she's given me a lot of other stuff since then, which you'll see from time to time. I might even play another one here that she did. I haven't loaded them all up, but I might play another one here. You can see from that I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. Now, what she's put together is just information basically from 2009 to the present. You know, again, I'm not just sitting back here talking. I did do the documentaries on the border and on homeless camps. I did go to Bundy Ranch. I did go to the detained McCain deal in Arizona. I have been to Second Amendment rally. You know, and the point is I am active. I don't just sit behind a microphone. You know, I realize that's not it either. This is certainly a part of it, and people that do this, they're doing their part. But the point is I have done more than that. So, yeah, the problem is we don't want to be convinced that this is all being taken care of at upper levels, and all we got to do is sit back and watch the show and eat the popcorn. No, absolutely, we don't want to do that. Bad idea. Yeah, Mark Taylor. Yeah, we're not going to. Laura P., I appreciate your comment, but like I said, I don't want to go to all that Q stuff now. I really don't. I know too much about it at this point, and if, like I said, you know, I just as soon follow the Washington Post and the New York Times. Yeah, Jack Kennedy, I did. I just talked about it at the beginning of the show here. Have you looked at Tucson, Arizona, the secret child exploitation program? I went all through that, talked to you about the martial law. The link down below, you'll see 4 links in the description box below. I'm not going to repeat all that information. Just go and look at the martial law thing that came out in 2013 in Tucson, and then you can go listen to what I said earlier. Yeah. I don't want to get into the dumbs. I don't know enough about that. I certainly have no doubt about it, you know, that we have those types of places. As a matter of fact, again, Brand Thornton is very familiar with some of that, having been in construction in the Las Vegas area, and it had ties into the Vegas shooting. Yeah, but we don't want to go right now. Did you see DHS? Yeah, Judas Lamb, I talked about that too. I brought it up at the beginning of the show. By the way, that's why I had kind of a long introduction now, and I probably will be. I know a lot of you don't like the long introductions, but it's kind of a way to alert people. They get a chance to see their notifications if they do that, okay? So I'll always have my little, you know, situation where I show my plate for, you know, I come in a little suit and tie and say hello and the little plate thing, and then I'll play one of these other things. It's just to give people time to know that it's coming, okay? So I apologize for that for those of you who don't like it. Yeah, no worry, Jack Kennedy. I mean, I started really early this morning too. It was 6:30, I think, you know, because of the pre-step thing today and some other stuff that's happening I want to keep track of. Mark Taylor is a beautiful human being. Yeah, I think so. And I don't know him very well, but from the few things I've seen, yeah, I think that's the case. I think so. And even people like Q could be beautiful people. You see, I don't have any problem with that. I'm not going to call somebody a name because they follow Q. But people that, you know, call people names or accuse them of horrible things because they don't, watch out for those folks. Watch out for them. Do I follow David Duke? No. Do I think it's wrong to follow David Duke? No. As a matter of fact, I've talked a little bit about white genocide, and it is happening in places like South Africa. It's happening basically right now in Europe, and they want to do it here. So, you know, I don't have anything against Israelites. I don't have anything against Judahites, Benjamites, Ephraimites, you know. Jews is another category, and you'd have to understand the history to know where that comes from. I don't think David Duke is absolutely right on a lot of things, but there are a lot of things he says that have a basis in fact. And I've talked about that a little bit in the past, especially about who's really running Israel and Saudi Arabia. And I'm really not going to spend this program doing that. Go read my book, The Crimson Thread. That's not really a plug for the book, but it pretty well explains that whole situation in historical terms from the first century. Okay, Rocket. Trump bombed Syria to take out Iranian missile sites that pointed at Israel. Deep State gave him an excuse with a fake chemical attack. That's probably true, but Iran is not typically an aggressor. They were fighting Al-Qaeda there, ISIS, and the situation that's been set up in Syria was set up by the intelligence community, including the Mossad, I know, and Saudi Arabia and other things, because they want to control that. I mean, every time that we've unseated a secular government, look what's happened. Libya is a prime example, Iraq, we go on and on. I have to say that Trump needs to ensure that we work together with Russia on Syria, and that we prevent, Iran. A lot of people don't really understand what Hezbollah and Hamas is either. I hope you understand that Hamas was a creation of Mossad. I hope you understand that. If you don't, you need to look into it. It's full spectrum dominance, perpetual warfare, an excuse to act when you can't find any other one. Okay, again, Dan V, I'm not going to go there on Q stuff just because I've said it, and I've just, I'm sticking to it. That is a soap opera. It has turned into a soap opera and a way for people to accuse each other personally of untruths and just horrible things. People have been attacked over this, threatened. I have no use for it whatsoever. It's proven what it is, and I don't care what everybody thinks about it. That's their business, okay? But that's my feeling. I want nothing to do with it. That's an interesting concept. Tony Barbera, Netanyahu, Trump, Putin, all in on it, Roy. I've talked about this a little bit in the past. I don't think Trump is in with Putin. In with Netanyahu as much as we might think. There's a downside that's not being talked about with the embassy moving into Jerusalem. Let me go back to Tucson for a minute, because believe it or not, there's a tie in there. Who is the mayor of Tucson right now? Does anybody know? Do you know what his last name is? It's been in the news. He's a Rothschild. Now, isn't that interesting? A place where there's martial law declared by the city council, we now have a Rothschild. I don't know his exact tie-in to the Rothschild family, to those people, to that whole thing, but there's got to be some type of a tie-in there. Okay? So, I think there's more to Trump's maneuvering here than we might realize. Okay? I could be wrong. He could be in thick with Netanyahu. But it doesn't really fit with my understanding of Trump's goals, persona. Okay? Again, I could be wrong on that, but this whole thing going down in Tucson, that really does tie in kind of to what's happening in the embassy. I don't know if you can see that tie-in. The martial law, Rothschild being there, military, avoiding child trafficking, the embassy showing up in Jerusalem. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, Lord Chuckles. Yeah, Blackstone Intelligence would disagree with your statement. He elegantly connected Trump and Rothschild via Wilbur Ross. Trump has more Goldman Sachs in his cabinet. Oh, I don't disagree. I think Jake's brilliant. Absolutely. I think he's brilliant about that. Yeah, this thing with Wilbur Ross and all the Goldman Sachs people, it's one of the things that Trump has done that I don't understand. I agree, okay, on that. However, what I think maybe Jake hasn't really considered to the extent that he needs to is the fact that Trump's level of business. He's an international businessman. You're not going to be at Trump's level in business and not have contacts with these different financial bodies. You're just not going to do it. That's how it has to be done, whether we like it or not. That's one of those things that I was saying where Trump has to act inside the political reality that he finds himself. I don't believe, and I will stick to this right now, I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that association with someone makes you guilty of their crimes. Guilt by association. That's a weak argument. It's not true. It avoids all evidence to the contrary. And I just can't go there. I won't. Everything else that Jake says about it doesn't make it untrue. He's made some important connections there. And I wish I had the answer. I guess we'll just have to watch and see. I have some different ideas, of course, about Trump and Putin. We have hopefully the Kim Jong-un and the Trump meeting coming up. I hope that still happens. The deep state is doing everything it can to stop it. I think most of us realize that, because that's going to be another nail in their coffin of world control, the New World Order. The 5G situation. How's that going to be? Because of the meshing of machines with humans, and then the eradication of humans, all that. Yeah, Trump hasn't attacked the 5G the way I wish he would at this point. But again, that might be, part of the plan down the road. I sure hope so. But at any rate, so Trump has this situation with UN coming up, and then what we need is for Putin and Trump to meet. And that's really going to send up danger signals to the deep state, and not because they're worried about our constitutional republic. No, they're worried about their institutions, their democratic institutions, their demon institutions. That's what they're worried about, and their control around the world. So, wow, I'm waiting for that. Yeah, okay, yeah. Jack Kennedy, I can't disagree with you there. At least that's the appearance. Zionism is a problem. It is. It's what set up Bolshevism. Really, the differences are minuscule. The whole thing with the Russian Revolution, the way that they're treating, the Palestinians are supposed to have a right of return, just like the Jews are to that area. There are a lot of problems. The Greater Israel, a lot of people have talked about. That's usurpation. That's there are problems with that. There absolutely are. Yeah, there you go. The mayor, 100 Tune. You must have just looked it up. Good on you. The mayor of Tucson, Arizona signed House Resolution 22006 on February 20th, 2013. Good job. Yeah, that's in the link down below that you'll see. Yeah, I heard that too, Glow, that Iran is upping uranium production. Uranium enrichment. Now, they've already reported that to the IAEA. Okay, so that's part of the agreement. They can go so far, and the news media is not saying that. Okay, the news media just says enrichment, and everybody thinks, for a nuclear weapon. Be careful with that. They did report this to the IAEA. Okay, so they're being monitored on this. Now, is that to say that there aren't secret programs? Well, I don't think Iran could get away with that. They're just too highly monitored. That was the excuse going on in Syria, right? That the Iranians had moved their nuclear facilities to Syria. Well, that's baloney. I almost said the other word. I'm trying not to cuss today. That's baloney. Do you realize how easy it is to detect those things? So I consider that to be a lie. Tony Barbera, he's saying the East European Khazarians are not Semitic peoples, Roy. I didn't say they were. I'm not saying they are. But conversely, the Saudis, the Arabs, are Semitic people. Aren't they? Yeah, they are. And a lot more people around the world are Semitic, not just Jews. As a matter of fact, few Jews, as you've pointed out, are really Semitic. I know that. Go read my book, The Crimson Thread. It talks about Herodians and Edomites and where that concept came from about Jews. And go read it. I know it's $20 off of Amazon, but It saves me having to say too much. Whoa, what's that? Rothschilds Bronfman own tons of Cemex stock. Yes, Jack, thanks for bringing that up. Exactly. They've cemented their relationship with Carlos Slim Clinton's Nexium Haiti. Absolutely. Good job. Good job. Thank you for bringing all that up. Again, I can't cover all that here. It's great when you guys can go and get that information, and just shows how intelligent and how well informed you are. Why hasn't HRC been lynched yet? I think you meant lynched. Yeah, she needs to be tried, convicted, imprisoned, and executed. Imprisoned and executed, depending upon what the judge decides, right? Okay, let's see. We've been going for an hour now. Oh, Trey Gowdy. Trey Gowdy is. I've never. There were times when I cheered Trey, and there were times when I was saying, "You're nothing but a drama queen. You're nothing but a theater performer." And unfortunately, he's turned in mostly to a theater performer. Trey Gowdy's a big disappointment. Of course, a lot of people think, oh, you'll never change their mind about Trey Gowdy. But Trey Gowdy is a problem. Absolutely 100%. And, he's using semantics. He's using lawyerese, and not very good lawyerese at that, about this thing where, the FBI had a right to be in the Trump campaign, all this baloney. And I'll end on this. We know about the FBI agents who want to come and testify. Priestep has probably been one of them. Okay, and there's supposed to be 8 or so, probably many more. And they want this. They want to be subpoenaed so that they can get the Congress to pay for their protection. Their attorneys and that kind of thing, which still won't protect them from the destructive, corrupt protection racket, criminal enterprise of the FBI and the DOJ, primarily the FBI. If you go look at my FBI corruption series, I've lamented for a long time that FBI agents won't come forward because they're afraid of retaliation. I'm not saying I don't understand the fear. I'm saying that, what do you want? You want your kids to die because of this deep state maneuver? Or do you have the courage to come forward? I know you could lose everything. I can name you right now people that have risked everything and lost everything to stand up against the government. And you could say, well, that wasn't a very smart move. That wasn't using, an intelligent attitude, coming at it from a position of strength. I agree. But sometimes there's no other way to do it. Sometimes there's just no other way to do it. So the FBI agents, I'll tell you how we're going to tell who the good ones are and who aren't, is if they come forward, whether you're protected or not, FBI agents. And you'll say, well, I'm not endangering my family. By being silent, you are endangering your family and your future generations. You're being fools if you think otherwise. It's time to come forward. Now's the time to do it. And I've said that for a long time. And that's how we're going to know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, those who speak up and those who don't. Okay. I'll take one more here. Let's see if I can find anything else. Oh yeah, Ruth Kessler. I'll do that because that has to do with chemtrails. She's asking, with all the volcanoes spewing ash in the atmosphere, so they need solar radiation management anymore, or is it really for something else? It's for something else. It's the cover story. And they deny that, right? Although now it's starting to come out more, it's in kids' books, people can find about the solar shield and all that. But no, that's not what it's about. Obviously it isn't. It's for much more nefarious reasons. The nanotech delivery, 5G implementation, even weapons systems, and to interfere with they think, to interfere with your consciousness. And that's just the way I'll put it now. Yeah, endangering humanity as a whole. Yeah. Okay. Guys, thanks for coming this morning. I really got to go. I appreciate you coming in. I know this was early this time, but I just wanted to do a quick broadcast and let you know that I'm still up and looking at things. I try to talk about things. You might say, well, why aren't you covering this? Why aren't you covering that? Because others are. Okay. So, I try to give you a different viewpoint on things when I do talk about what others are talking about, but I feel it's important that we expand our horizons a little bit here, okay, and try to get a feeling about what's happening in other parts of this. As Shakespeare would say, the whole world's a stage, right? Trying to understand what's going on here. Thanks everybody for coming again. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. As I always say, I know that sounds trite, and people say, well, nothing's happened, nothing's going to happen. You never know. Look at the volcanic activity. It could be natural. It could be, who knows? It's better to be prepared a year too early than a minute too late. And, of course, being right with God is always right. However you envision God to be, at least approach that, okay? And I appreciate you coming again, as I said. God bless you and yours. God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. God bless Melania Trump. Hopefully she continues to get better. God bless all those who have suffered, not just by man's hands, but also from nature. May God give them repose and comfort. And may God bless our president, Donald J. Trump. I hate it when I do this. In all of his righteous endeavors. And may the Spirit of the Lord give him the spirit of discernment and distill upon him as the dews from heaven, that he may know the right from the wrong and have the courage to do the correct and righteous thing. Everybody, take care. We'll see you next time. Thanks for coming. I'll play a little thing for you here as we go out, just because I figure it's a good idea to do it. Let's see. Which one do I want to do? Well, let's see. I don't have one of the new ones, I don't think. Let me see if I do. Hold on. Maybe I do. Oh, I do. I don't know which one this is. Let's try a real short one, okay? What the heck? Pam, put some different music to it. Let's see what you think. Okay, take care.